For those of you who don't know me, I think I know most of you who are logged on right now. I'm Katie Robinson. Obviously, I'm in the Charleston office and the firm's corporate communication leader. And one of my big passions lately has been knowledge management. So for the first half of this presentation, I'm going to go through the steps of what is knowledge management, and I'm going to put it in about 4 different categories. So the first is just defining knowledge management, knowledge systems, knowledge sharing, and then knowledge transfer. So all really important elements of knowledge management, especially in an industry like ours. I'm going to start with, if it will advance, with just a basic definition of knowledge management. This is the best one that I've found so far. So essentially, we're going to talk about how do we capture the data, how do we distribute it, and then how do we use it within our firm. So this is what everybody looks like who's working in our firm. So we have so much information in our minds, from the entry-level individual to the person who's been here for 40 plus years. So how do we share that information with everyone else? So that's really the big goal here, is how can everybody in the firm benefit from the knowledge that everyone has? And this is a really cool system because we have folks just graduating from college who have a whole new skill set that our senior level folks don't have. So this is really not the senior levels teaching the entry level, it's everybody learning from one another, which makes this so cool. So basically, we have 320-ish employees right now. It's a lot of knowledge. We have over 7,600 projects just in Deltek Vision alone. So that dates back to about 1984 for LS3P proper, but it also does not include some projects that came over from the various mergers that we've had. So if you imagine, that number of projects is much greater than just 7,600. We also have 960 active opportunities right now. So those are only ones that we are actively pursuing. So if you think about that, we could have an additional 1,000 projects by the end of this year. So how do we capture all of this data? So we're going to talk about our knowledge systems that we have in place. I'm not going to make this a lecture about Deltek Vision. However, our database is the central place that we are collecting knowledge. I'm going to go into this a little bit more detail at the end of this presentation for our data managers and those of you who are interested in learning what data managers do on projects. But basically, we track everything from a lead to the end of a project in Deltek. That includes the history of what did we submit on the proposal, did we do a formal interview, to estimated cost, estimated timelines, estimated size, all the way to the final data, so final completion costs, contract management. So it really is an all-in-one system. I know some of you kind of don't really like Deltek. I've got news for you. Most people don't like databases in general. However, when you see the information that's coming out of it a little later on, I hope it'll give you a little bit more of a warm and fuzzy feeling about it. We also use Planify. I have to admit, I don't use Planify personally, except to look at some staffing projections. However, it is very helpful for the practice side of our firm in managing their projects, planning out their projects, planning staffing for those projects. And we're going to start taking it one more level and taking a look at those opportunities that we feel we have probably a 50% chance or greater probability of winning, and go ahead and plan those out as well, so we can see that next level of staffing needs that currently we don't see in Planify. So stay tuned for more on that information. We also have DocuSign. Now, this one may be a little odd to you to put in here, but it is a form of knowledge management, because with DocuSign that we implemented this year, we're going to be able to track, let's say, contracts. So where are we in getting our signature record on contracts? Which ones still need to be signed? Which ones need to be edited and sent back out? So it is a form of knowledge management as well. Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is not a form of knowledge management. Please do not keep personal Excel files if you have information that you could share with other people, because Excel is good for sharing with you, maybe a couple of others who know the path to where you save that file, but it doesn't benefit the firm as a whole. So if you're managing, let's say, your leads, your opportunities, your project information, if you're managing any of that in Excel, please transfer that to Deltek Vision. If you're not sure, you can send me your Excel spreadsheet and I'll walk you through the steps of how to do it, and I'll even find someone who can put it in for you. That's how important this is. We desperately need to get rid of any individual data storage Excel spreadsheets. On the personal side, we also use BirdDog HR. So a lot of you experienced BirdDog when we did our annual reviews last fall. BirdDog is a way for us to gather information on how our employees are performing. You know, how are they advancing through the firm? So it's a really good balance to the information that we're going to use for an external purpose and the information that we're going to use on an internal purpose. So how are we distributing the data that we've captured? This is really important because we can gather all of the information in the world, but if we're not distributing it to our team members, it doesn't do the firm any good. So essentially, we have our dashboard. Our dashboard, for those of you who don't know, is a custom dashboard that was actually created in-house by our IT team. Fantastic group of individuals. This serves as the hub of all knowledge in the firm. What's so unique about this is, like other dashboards out there on the market, it'll pull in information from Deltek like financials and things like that, but it takes it one step forward and it allows us to customize it for what exactly the employees need to do their job on a day-to-day basis. So I wanted to walk you through just a couple of areas of the dashboard, just in case you're not used to it. We do have quick links over on the menu on the left, and this is kind of blown up for you. So if you need to do a PO, if you need to do a check request, things like that, you can easily find them in quick links. We also have an employee directory, very helpful. So if you're collaborating in between offices, which we do quite often, you can put a face to the name and bridge that relationship a little bit more. It's also a fun place to go, and you can click on fun facts if the employee has told them to marketing, and just learn a little bit more about your coworkers. We're going to be taking this directory to a new level throughout this year. We're going to create a directory that looks similar to this, but it's going to be a resource directory. So essentially, if you want to know who is the code experts in our firm, who can I go to ask this particular question to about code? You can click codes at the top and it'll show you the list of individuals. Some may be in your office, some may be in other offices. Same with Revit or 3D printing or general architectural design questions that you may have. All of those are going to be in the resource directory. So we look forward to unveiling that later on this year. We also have information that's being pulled directly from Vision, which is just counts. So essentially, you can go to Vision Quick Stats and see a current count of all employees in the firm and what disciplines they fall into. Really helpful if you just need to know something right away and you don't have time to contact HR or marketing for the information. We also have direct links to all of our wikis, and this is really what makes our dashboard unique, because along with all of the other information systems, we have 8 wiki sites in our firm. These range from the firm overview, marketing, HR, to project resources, Revit, and IT. So essentially, these are where you can find a lot of commonly asked questions about either the practice or the firm as a whole. You can also find a lot of resources like marketing resources or city-specific project resources. I do want to pause for a moment here and say, if you have anything that you feel would be helpful to add to these wikis, please send me an email and let me know, because those of us who are developing them, we don't live in your world every day, so we're not architects. So we need to know what information is helpful for you to include. So an example would be, perhaps somebody shares an email and it's a really helpful resource for you, and it's something that you would save maybe on your local computer or local drive. If it's that important to you that you think you're going to reference it later, shoot it to me, because if it's that important to you, it's probably that important to other people and they could benefit from the information as well. So that's a really good test of whether or not it should go on one of the wikis. The really good, cool thing about our dashboard is you'll see right under the picture a search box. That search box searches not only the dashboard, but it searches all 8 wiki sites, and it also searches any support tickets that have been sent to the IT department. So let's say you're having an issue because some program crashes all the time. You can search for that, and if anybody has submitted a support question about it, the solution will appear in the search results. Really, really helpful. If you've never submitted a support ticket before, at the top right part of the dashboard, you'll see a little icon, and that's support. That goes directly to our IT team. An IT member will respond to you very, very quickly and help you work through that solution. And that's helping to build that support database. So it's really cool. I forget the latest count of support tickets that have gone through. Daryl keeps updating it, but it's thousands of support tickets. So it's really awesome in helping us build that knowledge database, which is terrific. The dashboard even has some employee-specific information. So if you click on the little eye to the left of your photo, it'll tell you your current vacation and sick time balances. It'll show you what your business card should look like, and it'll also tell you your professional development allowance. We will be adding more things to this. Oh, if you have a utilization rate, it'll also appear here. I don't have a utilization rate, so it's not on here. We're working to incorporate a few more items on here that would be really helpful for the employees to know. So stay tuned for that as well. In addition to the dashboard, we also have 2 really unique things that came out of our Alchemy Core Competency Board. We have an Alchemy blog. Very few people know this in the firm, and I say that because if you look at the dates on some of those, they're dated almost a year ago. So it's not really that well used. But essentially, it was developed as a forum for sharing ideas about design. It can be anything. It can be a really cool article that you read and you want to throw it on the blog. Or I was on a trip and I saw this amazing building and I want to share it on the blog. So anybody can post to this. You can get there directly from the dashboard. Just enter your username and password from Windows, and you can log on and create posts. You can comment on what other people have posted. I really encourage you guys to take a look at this and try to increase the traffic on this, because we can all learn a whole lot from each other and get really inspired by some of the things that you're finding outside of the firm. In addition, we also have a visualization blog, again, created by the Alchemy Group. And this is for us to be able to post our own work on and get comments back on the design. Which is pretty cool, just a way for us to show what each office is doing. Like the Alchemy blog, it really is underutilized. So we need to do a better job of creating these posts, sharing them, getting comments going back and forth on them. So just keep those 2 in mind. Check them out when you have a chance. Again, both of them can get, you can get access through if you go to the dashboard. So that's essentially how we share the knowledge that we've gathered internally. But what else do we do with all of this knowledge and data that we're collecting? Obviously, we have a website. Our website uses a lot of the information that we collect on a daily basis. 2 areas of the website that we've really expanded based on the knowledge we're collecting is our foresight pieces. These get emailed to you guys whenever they're developed. I think it's about every other week. And these are fantastic. And what is so unique about foresight is the individuals that are posting, they run the gamut of individuals in the firm. So you don't have to be senior management to write a foresight piece. And we don't want it just to be senior management. We want everybody to contribute to this. So take a look at our foresight pieces. If you have an idea that you think, boy, that could really make a cool foresight piece, this is how easy it is to do it. You pick up the phone, you call Catherine Ball. She's in Raleigh. If you don't know Catherine, get to know Catherine. She is fantastically amazing. She's a researcher and copywriter for the firm. Catherine is also a licensed architect, which makes her a very unique individual in terms of her talents. She can have a quick phone call with you about your idea and then write this glorious foresight piece. All you have to do is review it. So you don't need to put pen to paper and write these yourself. So please take a look at it. We really want fresh ideas for this. Send any ideas you have to Catherine. We really would like to keep this running and increase it. This section of our website gets a lot of hits, so it's very popular. We also have our e-library on our website. And again, if you've never checked this out, please take a minute to do so. This is where we store the majority of our Transformation Tuesday booklets, as well as any targeted marketing pieces that we've put together. Obviously, if we create something that has information that could be a little bit more confidential, we do not post it on our site, but the majority of them are posted. This is also where we have the year-in review that is for external consumption as well. So take a look at those. Most of these Transformation Tuesday stories are based on knowledge that we are pulling from Deltek Vision. So it's just essential for us to get that information in there. So we also use knowledge in business development and marketing. So with business development, it's our way of providing proof of our expertise. So I'm going to actually steal one of Tom's stories here. So Tom, if I get your story wrong, you can correct me. But if you have to have brain surgery and you go to a brain surgeon and he says, I've read a lot about this surgery and I really think I can do it and I'm just really eager to try, will you let me do this brain surgery? You're going to look at him like he's a quack. But if you go to another surgeon and they said, this is my history, this is how many similar surgeries that I've done, and this is the outcome. This is how the patients are doing right now. You can trust me. I know what I'm doing. Who would you rather choose? So likewise in our industry, when we're out there doing business development, and everybody in the firm is a marketer. So it's not just marketing, it's not just our sole business development folks or our office leaders. Every time y'all go to an event, it's a marketing opportunity for the firm. So essentially, if I'm approaching someone and I know that they're on a school board and there's a bond referendum coming up and there's going to be some buildings of schools, K-12 schools, wouldn't it be great if I could go to that person and say, we've done over 2,500 schools and this is how our schools are performing and this is why we should be your architect. Or I go to them and say, yeah, wow, not really sure how many schools we've done, but I'm pretty sure we've done a few because I've seen some pretty pictures and I really think we can do this. So if you go armed with statistics, your story is much more powerful. Likewise, if you're trying to market how your buildings are performing for the client. So if you can sit an office client down and say, this is how our past 20 office buildings are performing for our client. This is how they've reduced their operating cost. This is what we've been able to do. It's a much more powerful statement. On the marketing side, if any of you have worked with marketing on proposals, you know that we get asked some ridiculous questions in proposals. All of this is very helpful if the information is in Deltek Vision because the marketing can pull it quickly. We don't have to come and bother the practice staff who are very busy with their own deadlines for this information. So it really is vital to the work that marketing is doing. We also use this data for much more mundane tasks, like professional and industry surveys. We love doing these surveys. So this ranges from Engineering News Record to Large Firm Roundtable, interior design giants, modern healthcare, a lot of the industry list that we are normally ranked pretty well on. They are a mundane process. There's a lot of information that is needed to be gathered on these. Without the data that we've collected, there's no way we would be able to complete these surveys in a timely fashion. Again, without coming and bothering you all. I like to use the example of the Engineering News Record survey because years and years and years ago, when we were submitting for this survey, before we really used Deltek, we had one individual who would actually keep this Excel spreadsheet and she would go to every single project manager, like the month before the survey was due, and ask them every question on their project. And as you can imagine, the project managers could not stand her doing this, but we did not have any source that we were collecting the information in, so it was vital for us to do that. Deltek and the roles that the data managers and contract assistants have been playing have really helped us expedite this process and become more accurate. Likewise, our professional liability renewal. This happens every fall. It is tremendously huge. It's vital that the information is accurate and that we can pull it quickly. Last year was actually the first year, thanks to our contract assistants and our data managers, that we were able to pull our professional liability information directly from Vision without having to maintain, I think it was something like 8 or so different spreadsheets. So we were able to pull 2 reports, merge them, and then John Works was able to submit for our PL renewals. And we knew that this information was much more accurate than it had been in past years. This is huge for the firm. Likewise, we're able to now do analysis on things like our direct consultant cost, which before we knew what we paid as a whole, but we couldn't tell you how much of that was MEP and how much was structural and how much was civil or how much was working with another architecture firm. Now, thanks to the work that we're doing in Vision, we're able to do this. So all of those are great benefits of the way that we're using the data. The biggest benefit, though, that I love is we're creating the next generation of experts. So these Nexperts. To me, this is the most exciting outcome of the data manager role specifically on projects, is because you're taking younger staff members or less experienced staff members in most forums, and you're giving them access to information that they probably wouldn't see in a normal architecture firm. So these individuals are getting to learn their project types that they're entering data on. So they're going to be able to walk into a meeting and say, the average cost of a K-12 school is this per square foot, or the average number of beds in a hospital needed for your facility is X number of beds. We're creating these experts by giving them this knowledge that most architecture firms hold in a bubble and don't share with their staff. This is huge. So I always say to the data managers, take full advantage of this role you've been given on your projects, because it is so much more than just asking a project manager, hey, I really need to complete these fields because Katie's bothering me and I have to get this report in. It is so much more than this. It is a huge learning opportunity for you to grow in your career and in your knowledge base. So to me, that is the most important and awesome aspects of knowledge management, is we're able to pass what we're learning as a whole onto one another. That in a whole is knowledge management. So it's pretty simplistic, but it's something that we really need to focus on for the firm in order for us to grow in terms of just marketing and also being a better service to our clients. What I'm going to do at this point, because we are at the halfway mark, I'm going to go into a little bit more specifics with our data managers. So if any of you aren't data managers, you can go ahead and exit out of the meeting if you want. However, if you're interested in what the data managers have been doing, I encourage you to please stay. Hopefully it won't be too mundane for you, but it is really important information. You guys are all muted just because we have so many people logging on from their desk. So I'm not going to ask for questions at this time, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to email them to me, and I'll be happy to get back to you guys as soon as I can on those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in on the data manager presentation. Okay, so for those of you who are data managers on our project, you received an email from me earlier this week with this tremendously enormous spreadsheet. If you have never served as a data manager before, I apologize because it was probably really overwhelming to get first off. But essentially what you see on the screen right now, all of those fields are fields that we have to have in order to submit our professional liability insurance in the fall. So rather than wait until the summer when everybody's on vacation and really busy, we wanted to start pushing these out to you guys on a quarterly basis, just so you can see how your projects are faring. You're going to notice a lot of blue fields. The blue fields are information that we need. Now the good thing is it looks like the majority of blue fields right here are primarily, there's no data manager assigned to these projects. I sent a separate email to project managers with this same report and said, if you do not see a data manager next to your project, please assign one. and let those individuals know. I've had about 8 emails from project managers saying, yes, I went in and I assigned them, but I forgot to let the individuals know. So what I'm going to do later on this afternoon, I'm going to rerun this report and shoot it out to the group again, just so you're fully aware if your name's been added next to any project, just in case the project manager did not communicate that with you. Essentially, these fields will correspond with fields in Vision. And the data needs to be entered in Vision, not in the Excel spreadsheet. The project manager should be able to help you with the majority of this information. And I will say, I put this in the email, but just in case, depending on the phase of your project, you may not be able to answer all of these fields. For example, if you're still doing design, you're not going to know the construction completion date or the final construction cost, and that's fine. Likewise, if it's a study, essentially the only thing we need to know about the study, apart from the information at the beginning of the spreadsheet, is the budgeted and actual design fee. Obviously, you're not going to know anything else on a study because there is no construction cost for studies and things such as that. So this information is very, very important for us to collect. If you go to the firm wiki, there's a data manager access button right on the first page. And that's going to walk you through what information do we really collect as data managers and why do we collect them, which is super important. What I'm going to do is I actually am going to come closer because I can't read this screen. So just ignore the fact that I'm not on camera anymore. So the first fields are pretty simplistic, and they're entered by the project accountants. So we have project number, project name, and control center, which essentially is the office doing that project. We then have project manager. Again, this is primarily entered by the project accountants. Data managers, that's you guys. So if you want to sort just your projects, you can use the sort arrows, unselect everyone, and then you can go and select just yourself. And it'll show you that the list may not be quite as overwhelming as it is when you look at the entire spreadsheet. So that's an easy way of just going through and selecting only your projects. On these other fields, please make sure you reference Vision because most of these are drop-down menus in Vision. For example, client type. That's typically developer, private owner, contractor. Perhaps our client is another associated architect. So things like that, they're already predetermined in those drop-downs. So make yourself familiar with the drop-downs before you go and try to gather information from your project manager, just so you know what the choices are. Project abandoned. If you have a project on your list and there is absolutely no chance this project is moving forward, it has been completely killed by the client, please send me an email and let me know. The project accountants will then make it marked as abandoned. If it's marked as abandoned, we do not need you to collect any information on that project. So that's really important because I don't want you guys to waste your time in collecting information if we're not going to use it for anything, because we do not include abandoned projects in any of our reports. Interiors by LS3P, this is the one that gets the most questions from people. So essentially, this isn't interiors as we typically think of interiors. So this is not interior design. So you have to think of this as anything inside the shell of the building that we design. So it could be a staircase or any interior component. If we did anything other than the building shell, we need to mark this yes. Basically, you have to put your lawyer hat on and say, okay, if someone's injured inside the building, could they sue us? And we need to make sure that our professional liability will protect us in the right way. So if there's any interiors, please put yes. If it's just an interiors project and we're not touching the exterior of the building, you can mark it as interiors only project. That's really important because that's also classified differently when we do our professional liability insurance. And we also report out on various industry surveys of how much was our work was solely interior work. So really important for us to know there. You'll notice in Deltek itself, once you select yes, if you hit save, there's a little grayed out field that says % of work that was interiors. What that's doing is that's taking whatever your primary building type is from the SF330 code column, which we'll get into a little bit later, and it's doing a predetermined calculation of basically how much of the fee is typically spent on interiors if it's that type of project. It's not an exact science, but it's close enough for what we need to do reporting-wise. So that's what we mean by interiors. Master planning or study only and feasibility study only, those are two drop-downs in the Project Info Center. These are really important because if they are studies, we don't need to collect much more information other than design fee. You will notice that there's a few in red that are marked yes. And the reason I put those in red is because when I go to delivery method, it says design, bid, build. If it's a planning or study only, it's not going to have a delivery method. So that should be planning or design only. So I highlighted those just to bring to your attention that there's some conflicting information. So either the master plan or study only needs to be changed to no, or the delivery method needs to be changed to planning or design only. This is also a very confusing tab. CA service is not provided by LS3P. And you'll see a bunch of no's, which really is a double negative, which I don't really like. But envision this as a checkbox. And unfortunately, if something is not checked, the default is no. So we're getting ready to change this to a drop-down. And we're going to merge all the information, so y'all will not need to go back to your project records and do it. But essentially, it's going to say, did LS3P provide CA on this project? Yes or no. So it's going to be a little bit more intuitive. But for these purposes, if it's no, we did the CA work. If it's yes, we did not do the CA work. So I apologize for the double negative on that. We will be correcting that. This is important for us to know, essentially, from a liability standpoint. Project country, okay, 9 times out of 10, well, actually 9.99 times out of 10, it's the United States. And we're actually working on getting that to be the default. So you guys don't have to go through 20 million countries in order to find the United States. Primary SF330 code, this field is very, very important. This is not the sector. So essentially, in this drop-down with Envision, there's a predetermined list of SF330 codes. And for those of you who are not in the federal market or maybe have not worked on public proposals with marketing, SF330s are simply government forms that we have to complete for the majority of public projects that we go after, as well as the new DoD work. Jennifer Dillon in the Charlotte office is an expert on these firms. If you want an overview of them, but they're really boring, so I wouldn't do it if I were you. But this is really, really important. So what you need to ask yourself is, what type of building is this? Like I said, it may not be the sector, because what if you're doing a administrative building for a school district? Well, your sector is going to be K-12 because that's your clients. But you're going to choose office building as the primary SF330 code. The reason this is so important is because when we do our professional liability insurance, we pay different premiums for different project types. I will say, if you have a mixed-use project, choose the primary aspect of that mixed use. So if it's mainly office building, choose office. If it's mainly retail, choose retail. However, if there is any condo component at all, you have to select condos. Condos are rated at a much higher percentage for liability premiums, so we have to make sure that we categorize those correctly. This is all in the help menu. There's little help icons all through Deltek, and this is there for you just in case you forget this later. Delivery method is simply the delivery method of the project. Is it design build, design bid build? Is it a planning only? Is it a CM at risk? Again, if you don't know, your project manager will know the answer to this question. Construction completion date. This is so vitally important because if construction is completed, we don't want to continue to pay liability insurance on this project. You'll notice that there's a bunch of fields that are shaded here. And the reason these are shaded is because if you go over, there is additional information that's conflicting this. So either the project is closed out, or there's a final construction cost listed, or there's a final something listed. So if there's something final listed, you should obviously know when construction was complete. If you're not sure, ask the CA person on the job. They could probably tell you in a heartbeat. The next fields are probably the most difficult. So we have total budgeted design fee, total actual design fee, total budgeted construction cost, and total actual construction cost. So why do we care what the budgeted ones are if the project's complete? A lot of reasons. We care because we can analyze how are we budgeting to our clients, and then what is the final outcome. We're also asked that a lot in proposals. What was the budgeted cost versus actual cost? What was your budgeted fee versus actual fee? Just to see how good we are at, maintaining our budgets. So really important information. If the project is complete and you or the project manager are not sure what the total actual design fee is, you can call your project accountant in your office. They'll be able to tell you. The project managers also have access to this information in Vision, so they can click on the project review tab and see this information. But it's project manager roles are the ones that can do that. Likewise, we also do estimated gross area in square feet, and then actual gross area in square feet. Obvious reasons there. We want to know, did the project scope change at all? If you have multiple buildings, add up the square footage and do just one for all the buildings. Essentially, that is a really quick walkthrough of the fields. I'm going to pull up Deltek real quick, just to show you where the majority of this information is. We tried to customize Deltek as much as possible to make this as easy as possible for you guys, and I apologize that it's still a little messy. But essentially, we try to get the majority of this information in the first 4 tabs. So the general tab, the project type, startup, and final data. There's very little that you're going to need to change on the general tab. Most of this should be pre-entered by the project accountants. This is where we mark a project abandoned. That's grayed out for you guys. You won't be able to mark it abandoned because we don't want someone to accidentally mark a project abandoned that we're still collecting revenue on, because then we can't collect the revenue correctly. So it's really important. Project type, this is where you're going to see that primary SF330 code. So you'll see that all of the codes that we use are in there. There's also a little help menu that if you click, it'll come up to tell you why we need this information. This is also, if you look through these, the majority of these questions are very easy questions to answer quickly. Is it a feasibility study? Is it a master plan study? Is it a mixed-use project? Take a look at these on your record, even if they're not in that spreadsheet. And if you know the answer, quickly put the answer in instead of waiting for someone to ask you to do that. The startup and final data tabs, we try to set them up to be very similar. So we have some important dates, construction completion, estimated months for construction, cost, square footage, and then if you click on final data, you'll notice we have actuals, and we try to put them roughly in the same place. So it's really easy to flip between the two on those. I do want to point out a couple of other tabs. We have our green tab. If your project is not seeking any sustainable certifications, if you guys could click that top checkbox, that would be really, really helpful to us. That way we can just make sure we pull it from any green reports that we do. Building performance, this is a new tab that we're still working on. So essentially, we took a look at all of the information that we're collecting for AIA 2030. And we thought, wow, this is really great information for the AIA to know, but how are we benefiting from this information? So a lot of you guys assisted in collecting this information this year, and I really appreciate it. I have gotten a little bit of feedback of how we can make it a more efficient process next year. So we'll make sure that we update you guys on that information. It'll be a lot less work for you, so I think that you'll enjoy it. But we really want to make sure we were capturing this information so we could show our clients how were our buildings performing in some of these areas. Likewise, we have a bunch of metrics from 179D, the tax bill that went out. And we want to make sure that we're collecting that information right now. That lives in a ginormous amount of spreadsheets right now. So we need to get that information entered into each project record as well. You guys will not be tasked with doing that. We're going to pull our admins in and ask them to help with that. Some of the other tabs, we do have a CD tab as well as a CA tab that's collecting information on our projects. We have not pushed these tabs as much as we should, but we're going to start asking our CA admins if they could start entering this data on the CA tab, which would be really helpful information right now because we're not currently tracking who the contractor was on all of our projects. So if anything goes wrong on our projects and we need to know who the contractor was, we have to go back to the project folder or accounting to figure out who that was. Not exactly the most useful way to do it. That, in essence, is a really, really fast overview of the main tabs that you guys are going to be working on as data managers. In addition to the PL spreadsheet, in the email I sent, there was a request for 2 additional tables, or they're called grids in Deltek, to be completed as well. And we're going to try to do this on a quarterly basis, and we hope it's not anything that's really difficult to find. If it is, please let me know. The first one is on this project type tab. So we went over a primary SF330 code, but we also want you guys to pay attention to this project codes grid below it. If I hit insert here and just search, there's 62 additional SF330 codes. Now the reason this is helpful, let's see, this is Tridentech. So this is a higher ed project that I'm on right now. Let's say there's an auditorium in this project. I can select auditorium. Maybe there's a restaurant within it. I can hold down control and I can select restaurants. Obviously there's going to be classrooms in it. So I can select all of these things and hit select, and they're going to be entered here. If you know it and it's easy to enter, you can also enter the square footage of those different elements. That's not necessarily as vital as getting the elements in there. So the reason this is important, we've had a lot of proposals come in and clients come to us with very, very specific projects and also a lot of limitations. So they don't want to see 20 or 30 projects anymore. They want to see 5 or 10. And they want those examples to be exact project examples of what they're looking for. So we'll occasionally get a proposal in and say, I need to redo the auditorium in my community college. I want 5 examples of auditoriums you've done of similar size. I do not want to see any additional information. We have no way of doing that right now. This grid would allow us to search for all auditorium projects, and if the square footage is listed, even the better. We'll know the size of those auditoriums. So when we submit to this higher ed client, let's say, we may be submitting a church. We could be submitting a conference center that happens to have an auditorium in it. So it would not have to be specifically a K-12 or higher ed project. So this is huge in terms of how we can market in the future. Hopefully it won't take you guys very long to go through the different elements of your building there. Likewise, on final data, and this one is very important, and especially In the first part of the presentation, I was talking about how exciting it is to see this next generation of experts emerge because they've been doing so much data management. This is the area. This is where you guys can really learn a lot of information. So with here, you can select out of a variety of building types. Airport, apartment, assisted living, auditoriums, there's classroom, hospitals, you name it. If you think something needs to be added to this drop-down, please shoot me an email. I'll add it. What it'll do is, let's say this was a hospital, and I'm not going to save this record. And then I want to know how many beds are in this hospital. I can put in the number of beds that was in the hospital. Now the cool thing here, if this field was filled out, actual building costs, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, when I hit save, that grid will actually calculate the cost per bed for that hospital. So if you just imagine if you're doing hotels, you'll be able to tell people the cost per key. If you're doing a K-12 school, you'll be able to say the cost per classroom or the cost per square footage, per course student, sorry. Likewise, you can do cost per square foot. So the unit type, we could just do square footage for the unit type as well. And it'll calculate that cost after you put in the number of square feet. So this is huge. But like I said, in order for this to be really impactful, this field, the actual building cost, needs to be entered. We're pretty good at getting the total actual construction cost. And I hear over and over again, well, I don't know how much the site work costs. Well, guess what? The contractor does. So a really quick phone call by either you or the PM, and we can get a rough cost of what that was from the contractor. This is really, really important, guys. So as much as you can break this down, that would be best. If you enter building cost and site work cost and hit save, the total actual construction cost will add up for you automatically. So again, if you can try to get that entered, that would be really, really great. You can have as many ratios of interest on the projects as you see fit. Obviously, cost per square foot on all projects would be a great thing to have. And things like hospitals, we look at the beds, we look at students in a classroom and things such as that for K-12. So if you can get that information, that would be really helpful. If you guys have any trouble at all collecting this information, if your project managers are not giving you the time of day and not willing to sit with you and go over this information, please let me know. I'm not going to go to the project managers and be like, bam, 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 you got to help the data managers. But at the end of the day, the project managers are the ones responsible for this data being entered into their project records. So hopefully you'll find them all to be pretty agreeable to help you enter the information. When you are entering this information, we have a vision project number that you can use. It's LS3P-vision. It's pretty simple. So you can put your time to this. The only time we ask that you don't put the time is if you're collecting something regarding the contract, because that obviously can be billed. But typically the contract assistants in each office are handling that. But for sole data entry for our benefit, you can use LS3P-vision on your timesheets. Also, at the end of the year, when you guys are doing your reviews, please list to your supervisor that you were data managers. I guess I can come back into the video now. But that's essential because we need to make sure that these individuals are recognized. The amount of efficiency that's come out of our firm based on the data that's been collected by data managers is tremendous. You guys need to be rewarded for that. If you need a list of all the projects you were data manager on throughout that year, let me know. I'll pull it, I'll send it to you. I'll make sure your supervisor has it. And likewise for the project managers, you know, at the end of the year, that's something that's going to be looked at as well, as how many of your project records are awesome and complete. and you'll be rewarded for that. So, you know, when Tom at the last firm gathering outlined the metrics that mattered, data was one of the huge metrics. It was actually said information systems, but data. And it really is something that's going to truly advance our firm, make us more efficient, allow us to do better collaboration with one another, and be better stewards for our clients. So it's hugely important. I do want to thank all of you guys who have been collecting this information all along. I want to pre-thank any of you guys who have just been assigned data managers. Again, we covered a lot of information. I'm sure y'all have questions on the spreadsheet that I sent. Again, I'll resend the spreadsheet because some project managers have switched names around and added names. So look for that today. And if anytime during this process you have any questions at all, call me. If I'm not at my desk, call my cell phone. My number's in the directory. Or you can email me as well, and I'll be happy to find the information if I don't know the answer for you.